Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer, the Arya Stark of board game review shows. Because I'm short. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Red Alert Space Fleet Warfare from PSC Games. In Red Alert Space Fleet Warfare from PSC Games, two players take on the roles of different space factions as they attempt to destroy each other in space. Now, this is the latest iteration of the Commands and Colors game system, which is a very popular and time-tested game system. Now, if you're not familiar with how Commands and Colors works, essentially you have a game board, in this case a gigantic mat, and what you're going to do is you're going to see it's divided into three different sections. You've got a left flank, a center, and a right flank. Your units in this game are groupings of spaceships. You've got heavy battleships, you've got cruisers, you've got destroyers, you've got fighters, and you've got a flagship that's got some fighter escorts. So essentially, every one grouped together is a unit. So, for instance, I think it's, you got three cruisers together, that's one unit. Essentially, why they're grouped together is to show their strength, their hit strength. If they start with three, then they're at full strength. But over the course of the game, as they take hits, you're going to be removing one of those ships as you move along. Now, as you play those cards, one that says, order 3 on the left flank, you're going to be able to move 3 of those units on the left flank. If ever there's a ship that's kind of in between, it's on the line that goes in between, it can be used for either the flank or the center. Now, on your turn, the first thing you do is play a command card. So once you play a command card, you're going to then be able to order your units around the board or in that specific area of the board. You play the card, you move those units. Now, how you move units is essentially they each have a movement rating. And then what you're going to do is engage in combat. Now, for combat, you're essentially going to count off the number of squares you've got away, and you've got these little chits behind your spaceships that tell you exactly how many dice you're going to roll, depending on the length of hexes away. So if you're many hexes away, you're going to roll fewer. Usually if you're right up close, which is essentially like a melee combat, odds are you're going to roll more, although there are some that will roll less if they're extremely close to you. Now, each class of ship kind of has its own color and shape. It's either got I think it's a purple triangle or a green circle or a square. And what you do is essentially when you're rolling the dice, you look at the dice you've rolled and you look at the ships you're attacking. If the symbol on the dice you roll are the same as the ships that you are attacking, you've scored hits, and that player has to remove those units from the board. However, there's some other things that can happen here too. You can roll a star token. If you roll a star token, you gain a star token from the pool. More on star tokens later. You may also roll kind of an explosion. If you roll an explosion under certain circumstances, depending on which classes are fighting which, that can also count as a hit as well. You may also roll Red Alert. Now, if you roll the Red Alert, what that means is the other player is going to essentially have to retreat. If you roll 2 Red Alerts, he's going to have to retreat. You have to retreat 2 spaces. You're also going to place a Red Alert token next to your ship. That means you can't move until that goes away, and you think you're limited to 1 die when you're firing. Now, during combat, you can also play the combat card. Now, combat card has a number of star tokens it takes to activate. You can spend star tokens on that, and these have lots of different surprises, different things you can do with your ship, different maneuvers you can do with your ship. Now, at the end of your turn, you're going to go ahead and you're going to draw your hand back up to its hand size. You can also draw combat cards and combination of combat cards or star tokens. Now, star tokens do a lot of different things in the game. Like I say, they activate the combat cards, a lot of them. They go ahead and you can actually spend a number of them to get rid of the red alert tokens, so it just doesn't take effect. You can also spend them later to take off command tokens, star tokens later, or red alert tokens later. So there's a lot of different things you can do with these star tokens. They're a very important kind of currency in the game. Now, in a standard game, you're trying to destroy your enemy, and you're getting a number of points for all the ships you destroy. On the bottom of the chit, the reverse side of the chit that you send with your ships, there's like a number. That's how many points you get. And generally, you're trying to score victory points based on the number of ships you destroy. There are some scenario things here. You've got different kinds of debris and asteroids and planets and stars that you can put out there that have kind of their own effects that you play with in different scenarios. So there's a lot of different stuff going on here in the game. But generally speaking, once you destroy a set number of ships and you get a victory agreed upon victory point to that limit, you destroyed that number of ships and you get their victory points for it, then you are the winner of Red Alert. So that's it in a nutshell. That's a very brief overview. There's more going on in this game than that. I'm a big fan of Commands and Colors games. I really, really enjoy them quite a bit. Always have fun with them. Always will. I think the first one I ever played was Battle Cry, which was a lot of fun, and I've gotten many, many since. It's a fun, and interesting system. Now, in this particular iteration, of course, it's space, and I love science fiction. I love sci-fi. I was really excited when I saw they were doing this because I love spaceships, love space games, and this just looked freaking awesome. So I was super excited to see this one come out. A few things about kind of what makes this one unique, the star tokens. You got that currency, the star tokens. There's some similar stuff, as I recall, in the Great War, which was something else PSC did, which was a World War I version of this. There's something similar there. But the star tokens here, the way they're used, you never really have a shortage of star tokens. It seems like they're fairly easy to get, so you can almost always mitigate that red alert token when it comes out, and you can more often than not activate your combat cards. So there's not a shortage of those, generally speaking. I can see situations where there will be, but generally speaking, that hasn't come up for me in games. Now, one thing that I'm not a fan of, and that's the fact that when you lose ships from your your unit, you start with, say, 3 ships, and you lose a ship, and you're down to 2. You don't roll any less die. You don't take any die penalty that way, and I guess it's still just kind of keep things balanced and interesting. But thematically, it kind of doesn't work. I mean, it looks like you're sending a fleet of ships, but when you take off one of the cruisers, they still have the same battle. It just it's wonky. It feels thematically weird. It makes sense, mechanically, but just thematically, it kind of felt like it dropped the ball a little bit. So I wasn't a big fan of that. But all told, I really, really like this game. Is it my favorite Commands and Colors game? No, there are other Commands and Colors games I like more. Commands and Colors Napoleonics, or even Memoir 44. Of course, I'm a history guy. So I really like those. But still, I gotta tell you, this has got a huge toy box factor. It's fun to play with. It's fun to play with these spaceships and have these epic space battles. And I like the combat cards. I like the sugar and the spice and the variety those combat cards bring to this game. And it's fun and very thematic at times. And I really, really enjoy this game. That mat that you're playing on is mega freaking huge. Know that going into it. You have to have a gigantic table or you're going to be playing this on the floor. I don't think I can play this in my table in my apartment. It's just too freaking big. So just be aware of that. If you've got a small little table, you may have to be playing at a game store at your buddy's house because you're not going to be playing this on your table. You need a gigantic table. This is a real estate hog. Just be aware of that, again, going into it. But man, it's fun. This is a fun game. Really enjoy it a lot. Like I say, if you're looking for the most refined Commands and Color system, this isn't it. But if you're looking for the toy box, this may be the best one yet. The plastic looks good. It's fun it's just fun to play with. You're like a big kid playing with your toys, and it's so much fun. The recommendation for the discriminating gamer for Red Alert Space Fleet Combat is buy it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. We are The Discriminating Gamer. And about Game of Thrones, ladies and gentlemen, let me just ask you one question. Are you watching? Are you what? Are you? It's a little play on words. I need a drink.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
Alright, what else do we have for weapons? What else can we do with weapons?
We got some mines, we got some EMPs that I got court martials for.